think you have more information on the Sainz fire, but why it happened and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Should we move on to that now?
Let's go on to there now. I think we've spoken.
That's a great little segue. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so we'll start off with the basic facts that we know about this fire. So it happened on the steep exit road on the approach to turn 4. We saw fuel spewing out the back, and he pulls over onto this exit road on the approach, and it takes 25 seconds. Some people have had different time periods, but the general consensus is it takes 25 seconds from when he pulls over to the first marshal arriving. Now, this first marshal arrives with a chock, and he places it under the front right tyre. But something happens; it doesn't get placed properly, or the car is at an angle where it rolls backwards over the chock and then comes to rest backwards at the barrier behind it. So when this happens, the first marshal starts extinguishing it with this small fire extinguisher, and 7 seconds later, another marshal arrives with another extinguisher. And then almost a minute after pulling off the road, the fire gets fully extinguished. Now, there's been a lot of criticism in the F1 community about how long it took these marshals to respond to the incident, and especially with it being such a big incident involving fire. A notable one is Scott McLaughlin, who won the most recent IndyCar race, who said, and I quote, "Crazy how long that took for people to help Carlos Sainz there. Thank you to the IndyCar safety team," which is a little shady. But let's dive into whether they did as best they could, or whether they could have done better. Now, some things I want to note is that I have very little experience with fire safety, with track marshalling. So the sources that I've found have, I think, speak for themselves. I found a Reddit thread where the marshal that actually arrived on the scene first was answering some questions, and what he said was that Carlos's car was already smoking a lot when it stopped, and he said, "We all think he should have gotten out immediately." I think that saying that these marshals took too long is ignoring the fact that these marshals, they act on orders from race control. They can only start once they get the order that the track is no longer active, and they can go and attend to this car. Their first port of call is Carlos's car is rolling back towards an active track. We have a virtual safety car. We do not have a red flag. So the first port of call was to stop this car. Even though he had a fire extinguisher in his hand, he had to get the chock in to make sure that there wasn't going to be a further crash. So he says that the car is called in, everyone is prepared, race control gives orders, people are allowed to move according to orders. We need to make sure everyone is safe, not just the drivers, though their safety is important too, he hastens to add. Now, this would explain why there was such a time period between the response arriving and the pulling over actually happening. Some people have attributed it to, like, the blame to race control for not calling a red flag, or for calling the VSC too late. I'm not sure if that's where the blame lies either, because it took a while for the flames to start on his car after he pulled over. So at the end of the day, I guess what I'm saying is I think that everyone did as well as they could have been expected to do. The marshals performed their job safely, and they followed their procedure. There were a couple things that were overlooked, but I think that this happened as a result of so much going on. Because normally these things happen. You look at Gasly's fire several races back. His car was completely stationary. They only had the fire to attend to. This time you have a moving car that is on fire. So there's lots of different moving parts, and you also have Carlos pausing for a bit before he gets out of the car. So they have 3 different things that they're trying to sort out at once.
Yeah, I think on top of it as well, like you don't know if like the marshals have a fire pursuit going into that fire. If they have a big enough fire extinguisher. And plus, like, they don't get the marshals as much as we respect them, and they do a lot of great work. They're unpaid. They do love the sport. I don't think any of them are willing to die for Carlos Sainz. And this is a very bad thing to say, but I don't think I'm willing to die for it. You can't. I think blaming the marshals probably isn't right, as you said. I think probably the system around it was the VSC was called out too late. Or probably is a better training system in the marshals to get them know there's no handbrake on their F1 car, right? So we don't know actually. There's no physical way of stopping it rolling down the hill, apart from putting a rock or hoping that it just stops.
Yeah, I agree.
Better training.
There's some other points as well. So only the chief marshal has a radio to communicate with race control.
Right.
So these orders have to be communicated through the chief marshal to the other marshals, and it was noted that the station was not as close as many people think it was to where Sainz actually pulled over, and that's another added reason for debate. Another point that someone brought up in one of the comments was that all of 2022 F1 cars are fitted with an AFFF fire suppression system for both the cockpit and the engine that could have been activated by Carlos before he got out. I mean, understandably, he had few other things on his mind at the time, but the fact that these things weren't activated, it's the chaos of 25 seconds. It may sound like a long time, but in reality, they had so many different things to do that I'm not sure it could have been done much faster, and that's my opinion on the matter.
I think plus, like, the marshals got to make sure that the biggest thing for them is as a driver, okay? They don't care about the car, they don't care about anything. Their biggest thing is the driver okay? And I guarantee Sainz, after possibly throwing away either a competitive win or a guaranteed P2 in that race, wasn't really answering the marshals. So it was probably just like, just like, move away, I'm okay, don't worry about that. I think there's definitely the marshals, like, you can't really blame the marshals. I think you've got to blame the system or probably the training that they get, or even the race directors, which a lot of drivers, I don't know, in this race were complaining